Alright, in this lesson, we're going to talk about two things. We're going to talk about something called frequency tables, and we're going to talk about something called histograms, okay? And so your goal for today is I can create visual displays of data using those two things, frequency tables and histograms. Frequency tables are pretty easy, and histograms are a little bit like bar graphs, which you should be used to from elementary school. So let's go ahead and get started. First off, what is a frequency table? Well, it is a table and it has data in it. And remember that data is just a fancy way of saying numbers or information, okay? And it shows how often an event occurs. So, for example, if a teacher's ever had a student up at the front of the classroom to take a tally on which team scored how many points, they were creating a frequency table. In this example here, you'll see that somebody has tallied how many times somebody has said they have a dog or a cat or a goldfish, and on and on and on. So in this case, they took tally marks and tallied every time somebody said that they had a dog. And then they calculated the frequency. And all frequency means is how many tallies did they have? That's all it means. The other thing we're going to look at in today's lesson is called a histogram. A histogram is a type of bar graph. It is not a bar graph though, and I'm going to explain the three key differences. The big thing with a histogram is that the information is organized into equal intervals, and we're going to talk about what that means. The best example is right down here on this graph. So the first way that a histogram is different from a bar graph is pretty simple. You'll see that in between the different bars, there is absolutely no spaces. Each bar has to connect with the other. Okay, that's pretty simple. The important part about a histogram, though, and the more challenging part, is this right here. So each bar has to represent the same amount of data below. So for example, this is talking about the price of remote control airplanes. So over here, they're talking about a price of $25 to $49.99. So that's a spread of $24.99. The next one is remote control airplanes that cost $50 to $74.99. But again, that's a spread of $24.99. The rest are going to be the same exact situation. And think of it this way. If the teacher calls people up to the front of the classroom, she may have 3 people stand over here, 3 people stand over here, and 3 people stand over here. That's what we would call equal intervals. There's 3 here, 3 here, and 3 here. That's the importance of a histogram, is that each bar represents an equal amount of intervals here. If a teacher adds one more person to this group, they're no longer equal, and so that would not be a histogram. The last part of a histogram is pretty simple. If you have an interval that has 0 values or 0 numbers in the data set, you do not draw a bar, but you still have to draw the interval because remember, each one has to be equal intervals. Sorry, that's my dog barking. Okay, so let's start out pretty easy by just making a frequency table. Up here, I have the top 10 money earning concerts in the local Charlotte area. And all I'm going to do is see how many of those tickets cost between $25 and $49.99, how many cost between $50 and $74.99, and how many cost between $75 and $99.99. So the first one is $83.87, and that's going to fall right here. So I'm going to put a tally mark. The next one is $68.54. That's going to fall in between those two numbers. $51.53, it's going to fall right here again. $62.10, that's going to fall here again, so we can see what's the most popular so far. $59.58, right here. $47.22, oh, that's in the cheaper category. $66.58, that's going to go here. When you get to your fifth tally mark, you cross them. $88.49, that's going to be in the last one. $50.63 right here, and $68.98 right here. And so the last part of the frequency table is add them all up. How many tally marks? 1, 7, and 2. And that's all there is to it. The harder part is taking this information and making it into a histogram, which is exactly what we're going to do next. So I have a blank histogram here for you. We're going to put our title. So we're going to do ticket prices for concerts. And you can get creative with your title. You don't have to have the exact same one as mine. What's important is that it somehow explains the information that's going to be in your histogram. Now, when we talk about our frequencies, this is where we need to come up with a number scheme. So if I look back at my data, this is my frequency category right here. So I have 1, I have 7, and I have 2. So I can choose to count by 1s, by 2s, by 3s, by 4s, by 5s, on and on and on. In this case, I'm going to count by 1s because my data is pretty small. The first number you always start with is 0. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And if you're able to go higher on yours, that's fine. The key part of this is that you're able to fit the frequencies from the data onto your histogram. Now we have to look at the bottom. So the bottom is going to be our intervals. And I'll explain what those are. So if we look back at our chart again, our intervals are going to be this information right here. How did we tally that information? Well, we tallied it by $25 to $49.99, $50 to $74.99, and $75 to $99.99. And so in this case, we have 3 intervals. We have $25 to $49.99, and then we have $50 to $74.99, and then we have $75 to $99.99. And now we have to make our histogram. So the hard part is setting it up. The easy part is making the histogram. Alright, so for our first interval here, we had a frequency of 1. And so I'm going to make my first bar. And you can choose to color it in, but you don't have to. Okay? The important part is that the bar starts here and it ends at the beginning of the next interval. So the next interval, $50 to $74.99, has a frequency of 7. And so I'm going to start here and I'm going to go all the way up to 7, right about there. And then I'm going to come all the way down. And again, you don't have to feel obligated to color in your bars. I'm just going to give it some color. Alright, now our last bar is $75 to $99, and that has a frequency of 2. And so we're going to start right about where the 2 is, and it's going to take us all the way to the end of the graph. And so now that our histogram is complete, you can easily see what the most frequent price for a concert ticket is in the local area. And it's definitely $50 to $74.99. Okay, so now that we have an introduction to frequency tables and histograms, let's try some more examples. And we're going to go a little bit quicker this time. So in this case, I've actually already made the frequency table for you. We're talking about the number of states that are visited by students in Marty's class, okay? And so here it says 0 to 4 states, and it has the tally and the frequency. People who have visited 5 to 9 states, the tally and the frequency. 10 to 14 states, the tally and the frequency. And remember that the tally matches the frequency. So 3 sticks is a frequency of 3. 5 sticks is a frequency of 5, and on and on and on. And so all it wants us to do in this situation is to make the histogram. But what I need to determine is how am I going to set up my frequency. I have 9, 3, 5, 1, 6, and 3 for frequencies. But I only have a little bit amount of space. So last time we went by 1s, but this time let's go by 2s. So remember, we always start with 0, and then 2, 4, 6, and 8, and 10. Now when you make your histogram, if you get to your top number and that's not enough, then you need to erase and start over again. Maybe go by 3s or 4s or 5s. Now on the bottom I need to do my intervals, and it gives it to me here. So I have 0 to 4, and then I have 5 to 9, and then I have 10 to 14, and then I have 15 to 19, I have 20 to 24, and I have 25 to 29. Perfect. Alright, so now I just need to go ahead and make my histogram. So for the first one, 0 to 4, I have a frequency of 9, which is going to be between 8 and 10. Alright, for my 5 to 9, I have a frequency of 3, so that's going to be right here. For my 10 to 14, I have a frequency of 5, which is going to be in between the 4 and the 6. For my 15 to 19, I have a frequency of 3. For my 20 to 24, I have a frequency of 6. And for my last one, 25 to 29, I have a frequency of 1. And so there you go. You have your histogram. Perfect, perfect, perfect. And keep in mind that histograms, the bars have to touch each other. They have to have equal intervals at the bottom. So here 0 to 4 that's going to be 4. 5 to 9 is also 4. 10 to 14 is 4. 15 to 19 is 4. 20 to 24 is 4. And 25 to 29 is 4. All right. Oops, sorry. Okay, so let's look at this example over here. Now we're talking about people who have visited state parks. Now, I want you to look at this information very closely, okay? We have our data up here, which is important. We have our frequency table here, which to me it looks blank, okay? And then we have our histogram, or our almost completed histogram over here. How do I know what my intervals are for my visitors, though, so I can even start to tally? See if you can figure out where we're going to get that from. Alright, if you saw it right here, you are correct. Sometimes we need to go from the histogram back to the frequency table. So let's go ahead and do that. So here we have 100 to 149. And then we have 150 to 199. We have 200 to 249. 250 to 299. 300 to 349. 350 to 399. Now we have to take our data and make our tally. So 108 is going to go here. 209 is going to go here. 171. 327. 185. 192. 152. 236. 226, 137, 165, and we're going to cross it on the fifth one, 244, 263, 193, 235, we're going to cross it on the fifth one, 207, 212, 161, 382, and 241. So now we need to go ahead and count up our frequency. So that's going to be 2, 7, 8, 1, 1, and 1. And now we just need to take this information and fill in the histogram. And it already gave us a title, it labeled the frequency, and it labeled the intervals. So let's go ahead and fill it out. So the first one has a frequency of 2. The second one has a frequency of 7. Then we have a frequency of 8. Then we have the last three are a frequency of 1. And that's our histogram. It's not much harder than that. Filling it in is easy once you have the frequency table. Alright, now let's take a look at one last example before we get into analyzing. So this one is very important because it's going to give you a bunch of data right here, okay? But it's not going to tell you what your intervals are. You are going to have to figure that out for yourself. So remember that our intervals have to be equal. If one of them spans 5 numbers, the next one needs to span 5 numbers. The easiest way to do that, in my opinion, is, so for example, here we're looking at test scores. What's the highest number in this data? Let's see. It looks like it's 98. What's the lowest number? 60. So we don't have to start exactly at 65. We could start at 60. So we could go 60 to 69, 70 to 79, 80 to 89, 90 to 99. And we can stop there because 98 is our highest number. So that's how you're going to make your intervals. So 60 to 69, 70 to 79, 80 to 89, and 90 to 99. So now let's make our tally, and you're going to do that and I'm going to do that at the same time. Alright, go ahead and hit pause if you're not done tallying because I'm going to start to come up with the frequency. So for this one we have 2, 5, 10, and 11. Alright, so let's see how we're going to do our frequencies on the side. Can we go by ones? 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That won't work because we have 10 and 11. What if we went by twos? 0, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. That'll work because our highest number is 11. So let's go ahead and number by twos. Now on the bottom we have to do our intervals, and that is what we came up with here. So we're going to have 60 to 69. We're going to have 70 to 79. We have 80 to 89. And we have 90 to 99. And then we have to make our histogram. So our first one is 2. And then we have 5. And then we have 10. And notice how all of my bars are touching each other. And then we have 11. Perfect. And that is our histogram. Now in this case, this information is really good because we're talking about test scores, and you'll notice what's happening to the histogram. The scores are going up, 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 up. So most people did very well in that test. Okay, last thing before we end the lesson is what happens when I give you a completed histogram and I start to ask you a bunch of statistical questions about it. So first question, describe the information in this histogram. The easiest way to figure that out is to look at the title. So in this case, the information is about men's cycling, that's bicycles, times for the Olympics. And you don't have to word it just like that. You can word it any way you want, but the area you get this information from is in the title. Okay, that's the easiest place. The second question is a little bit more complicated. Which interval, remember intervals are at the bottom, has 7 cyclists? So take a look. This one has 0. This one has 9. This one has 7, this one has 5, and this one has 3. So which interval is it? 65 to 69. Next question. Which interval has the greatest number of cyclists? You could think of this as the mode. Remember, mode means most. So which one has the greatest number of cyclists? You should have said this one right here, interval 60 to 64. It's the tallest column. It has the most frequency. And then last question is tricky, but you can get it. How many cyclists had a time less than 70 minutes? Here's 70. How many had a time less than 70? Well, look on the graph. There's 0 here, there's 9 here, and 7 here, and we can't count anything past here because we need less than 70. So 0 plus 9 plus 7, 16 cyclists. Alright, that is the end of this lesson. Remember, histograms, they're a little bit long, but they're not too hard. Make sure you ask me any questions you have in class.